Hello, hello. Hey, make sure you're subscribing to the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. You probably already did, right? But if you haven't, subscribe and turn a friend onto it. But also subscribe to the YouTube channel that you're watching right now. Click on the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified of when we're on, ring that bell. Just click the little bell and you'll be good to go. TC, our friends at Parx Casino, the #1 casino in our home state of Pennsylvania, have some very exciting news. They are opening in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania this February, which is great because Shippensburg is so well located. I don't know if you've ever been to Shippensburg, PA. I was in Shippensburg years ago with my parents. Southwest of Harrisburg is how I would describe it, meaning accessible from Philly, from Pittsburgh, from Baltimore, from Washington. There's actually a nice corridor that you can get easily from central PA to Washington, D.C. Anyway, brand new casino with slots and sports betting kiosks and more. If you want more information, go to this web address. It's parxcasino.com, Parks with an X, parxcasino.com/Shippensburg. And of course, Parx Casino, the main hub outside of Philadelphia in my native Bucks County. Big weekend in pro football playoffs in the sports book. A lot of concerts and dining. Great activities upcoming. Big and rich this Saturday night, and a lot more exciting entertainers coming, including TC's favorite, Gin Blossoms, in February.
Do I like the gin or do I like the blossoms?
You like it all. What's wrong with having like an edible flower in your gin?
I like that. I like edible
had a
flowers
cocktail
in my salads.
I had a cocktail last week where they put a flower in and I
Nasturtiums.
threw it. What's that? Excuse me?
Gesundheit.
For more information, visit parxcasino.com. Got to be 21 or older. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Time now for the headlines from Smerconish.com, the newsletter. Al Jazeera leading the newsletter today.
Good. Because
of their coverage. Their coverage was really good about Ukraine and Russia. Headline, Russia warns that if NATO arms Ukraine, it will lead to a whole new level of war. The lead. Russia is warning of an extremely dangerous escalation if NATO deploys heavy weapons such as battle tanks and long-range missiles systems to Ukraine. A cautionary statement from the Kremlin on Thursday came before a key donor meeting as Western countries consider sending more powerful military equipment to Ukraine, with Russian forces intensifying attacks to secure territory. The big overarching question here is whether we should be giving our most sophisticated weaponry to Ukraine to fight back against Russia. Zelensky now wants tanks. The Germans are saying, well, we'll give you tanks, but we want the Americans to also give you tanks. And they're kind of putting the Biden administration in a bind. Yesterday, I had Admiral James Stavridis. We're so fortunate to be able to welcome him here on a weekly basis.
He's just a font of knowledge.
And I said to him yesterday, I actually listened to the podcast last night because I wanted to be reminded of what Admiral Stavridis had said pertaining to Ukraine. It's a really good podcast release, almost as good as TC After Dark with Craig Laban this week. Laban or Laban?
Craig Laban.
Craig Laban.
Yes.
The longtime food critic for the Philadelphia Inquirer.
One of my favorite conversations I've had. You know, I love these interviews.
And you got a big shout out from Michael Klein.
I know. I loved that.
It.
I loved that. That was really fun. Yeah, I had a great, sort of freewheeling, long-ranging conversation with Craig Laban talking about his work in Philadelphia at the Philadelphia Inquirer as a food critic and a restaurant critic. And I just loved it. And he brought me into the cone of trust. I was looking at him on Zoom the whole time.
Is he still protective of his appearance?
Very much so. Oh, no. He was like, we're not recording this, right? And I said, Craig, you can totally trust me. I didn't take a picture.
Was it true that his picture was in the kitchen of restaurants?
When you listened, you think I didn't ask that question? Of course I asked that question.
Can I get back to my podcast?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Stavridis?
This is slightly more.
We're done with the food. Let's talk about war.
Gotta eat.
I said to Admiral Stavridis yesterday, it seems that with the passage of time, the resistance on the part of the Biden administration to hand over whatever Ukraine wants is less and less and less. It's like shy of nukes. We seem to be giving them everything that they need. And the question is, why has there been a change? Is it because we no longer fear that Putin goes nuclear if we give them too much. I mean, I think that's what always held us in check. I don't think the expectation a year ago, literally, I guess 11 months ago, was the invasion. A year ago right now, we were saying, do you think they'll invade? But I think that the thought process then was, well, we got to arm Ukraine because it's morally the right thing to do, and also because Russia's our enemy from a global perspective. We want to arm them not so much that they can take the fight to Russia, but that they can repel the Russian invasion from Ukraine. I feel like the dynamics have shifted, that Ukraine has proven to be much more of a fighting force than we anticipated. Now you've got Putin almost on the ropes and contemplating a massive invasion of hundreds of thousands of troops when the weather breaks in the spring. So we're at a break point in this whole situation with Ukraine. And when I asked Admiral Stavridis yesterday, well, what is it we ought to be contemplating giving them yesterday? He said the issue is combat aircraft. What they really need is combat aircraft, and you'll listen again to the podcast, I hope. But Stavridis had said that he'd been reluctant to greenlight that, but now would reconsider and give them pretty much everything that they want. So wherein lies the red line? That is the issue. Wherein lies the red line today in terms of limitations on what we would give them? Other stories at Smerconish.com, the newsletter today. President Biden yesterday in California said that he has no regrets in terms of his handling of classified information to date. He also said there's no there. Mark this on your calendar. The State of the Union is February 7. Today's the 20th of January. February 7 is the State of the Union. Shortly after the State of the Union is when he's expected to formally announce that he's running. I feel like 6 months ago there were legitimate questions. I was doubtful. Like, is he really going to do this? I think he's going to go away for the holidays.
Do you have any doubt now?
No, if I were a betting person and I'm not, I would call it 80-20.
Yeah.
That he's going to do it.
Right.
I mean, Trump's already in. Biden, I think, will get in. If Trump...
Michael, is it going to be Biden and Trump again? Just tell me now.
Had the conversation with Mark Halperin yesterday.
Just tell me now.
Mark, the most likely prospect at this moment is that it will be.
I can't.
It's not a prediction.
I can't.
That in the end it will be, but as of this
right
moment,
now,
with Trump seemingly solvent, healthy, and unindicted, right? The three big
and
ifs.
Really polling well at Mar-a-Lago.
Biden as the incumbent, then how do you say it would be anybody else?
Wow.
And the poll results from Morning Consult that were released this week, we had them at Smerconish.com yesterday, showing Trump holding half the Republican electorate when there's a multi-candidate field, DeSantis somewhere in the 30s.
And you have said that all along. If there is a big field, last time we had the kids table, we had 17 up on that stage, then that serves him well.
And nobody else really cuts into it. It's like it's Trump and it's DeSantis.
Right.
And then you've got others who are in the 2 or 3% range.
Right.
Nobody is in a strong third position.
So
TC, yesterday I talked about the story where New York Times had the story of the RNC going to the television outlets, including CNN, and saying, are you interested in hosting a Republican debate? We're talking the summer, this coming summer.
That's crazy.
In a blip, the days are going to get lighter, longer.
Right.
And before you know it, we're going to be talking about Republican debates.
Yep.
I can't imagine. President Biden will probably draw some token opposition, but as an incumbent, I don't think there's going to be anybody serious who steps forward to take him on. But my point is, it's not far in the future. Okay. Yesterday at Smerconish.com, 16,845 votes were cast on this question. Should the Philadelphia Flyers have benched defenseman Ivan Provorov, who, citing his Russian Orthodox faith, sat out, this was Tuesday night, the Pride Night warm-ups? 72.86%, let's call it 73% of those who voted yesterday said no. And I think that's the right outcome. No, he should not have been benched. Some calling for his punishment, calling for his benching. I noticed that Coach John Tortorella of the Flyers standing by his defenseman saying, quote, Pravi's not out there banging a drum against Pride Night. He quietly went about his business. And I think that, and we talked about this extensively yesterday, I think that kind of sums it up in terms of, it's not that he was discriminating. He wasn't engaging in an act of discrimination. He was sitting it out. He's not the baker. He's not the website designer who says, I'm in this business, but I'm not going to service you. No, he's a hockey player and he played hockey. So I think it was probably the right outcome. There are a number of Philly-based stories today that are really worthy, including the Boy in the Box update. So for 65 years, a child was known only as the Boy in the Box because he was found on a roadside in a box. He was dead, and his identity was unknown. And law enforcement, the Vidocq Society, some retired law enforcement types, they've never let go of this case. And with advances in genetic DNA utilization, they've been able to identify who he was. And now the Philadelphia Inquirer, for the first time, has identified his parents. Now, when I first heard, okay, here's his identity, Joseph Augustus Zarelli, I thought, well, it's got to be the parents who are culpable in this, was my instinct.
But these are the biological parents, right? That's it.
That's
the difference.
There it is. So
yeah.
Betsy and Gus.
Right.
Betsy and Gus were his parents, Augustus Zarelli, Mary Elizabeth Betsy Abel, or Abel, I'm not sure, conceived a child in the spring of 1952. The boy's short, painful life became one of Philadelphia's greatest unsolved mysteries. Presumption here that she would have been 21 when he was born, January 13, 1953. A close relative who asked not to be identified said she could have put him up for adoption because she had done that before with a daughter.
Wow.
So they're
we don't
working
know anymore, and the police aren't responding. Like, this is the Inquirer.
That's all they'll say.
It. Right.
That is all they'll say.
That's all we got.
Have the story today from the NBC affiliate in the Bay Area of the gallery owner in San Francisco who
That's a tough video to watch.
Who hosed the homeless person.
Hosed, not housed.
The decision to charge a San Francisco gallery owner with assault for spraying an unhoused person with a garden hose, sparking a new debate. It has been a week and a half since a video surfaced showing San Francisco gallery owner Collier Gwynn spraying down an unhoused person. I guess, is that the language they're now using?
Remember when you were
unhoused.
Last talking about it and you said homeless and you said that, or you said not to say homeless?
Yeah, I don't like homeless as a descriptor.
You just addressed that.
I don't like homeless but I don't like unhoused either because it continues to frame the problem of the person who never should have been hosed.
No one
but
should be hosed.
It continues to frame it as a shelter issue, and it's not a shelter issue.
Yeah.
It's usually a mental health issue and an addiction issue combined.
Yeah, but he's literally just standing there with a hose on full bore spraying her. It's really disturbing.
Right. Controversial, though, because of the arrest and charging for assault. Is that really the way to go?
Right.
I've spoken a lot about Alec Baldwin and the overcharging that I think took place in that case. A reminder, poll question at Smerconish.com today. Go and vote. Will Alec Baldwin be convicted of involuntary manslaughter? Remember what that means. It means he didn't mean to do it, but he exhibited a criminal level of negligence, recklessness. Was he reckless? I've said before, I need to know, is the standard in the industry that any time you're using a weapon on set, you yourself check it? Because I think that's what the prosecutor is saying in New Mexico, and I'm not sure that's the case. Okay, TC. 2 traffic stop cases in the news with some commonalities. Both people of color, both refused police requests to get out of the vehicle.
Right.
Both were then, I don't know, should I say pepper sprayed in one case, tased in another.
Correct. Those are the two differences.
So, met with force.
Correct.
And now, investigation, blowback, and repercussions. The Army lieutenant case, this is from Virginia. We talked about it when it happened. Lieutenant Caron Nazario in uniform. Do you remember this? Have you gone back and looked at the footage of this?
I read on Smerconish.com, and embedded in that is the original video.
So this is a black soldier in uniform.
In uniform.
In his vehicle. He was pulled over. Have to remind myself. I think it was a plate. Something wasn't right on the back of the car. I think he was missing a license plate, and instead in the window had a form of identification, much like you do with a new car.
Right.
That was the premise on which he was pulled over. But when he pulls over, and you watch the whole thing through body cam footage, he won't get out.
Yeah.
He's kind of docile and calm and questioning, but ultimately refusing.
Yep.
And he gets pepper sprayed. Okay, so he filed a lawsuit. Jury just came back. They awarded a total of $3,685. That was $2,685 in damages and $1,000 in a punitive award.
How much did he ask for?
Well,
because I thought that was part of the headline.
$1 million.
Okay, well that was.
He asked for $1 million.
Okay, but to me that was the headline. Like he only got this much. Is that not how I should be seeing it?
No, I think the way I disregard whatever they're asking for, because typically what you would do, like in our jurisdiction. In order for you to avoid ending up in arbitration, you would have to say that you were seeking an amount in excess. I remember when it was $50,000. I remember when it was $75,000. I don't even know what it is today. Or for a federal court matter, you'd have to assert that you think the case is worth more than X. Otherwise, you automatically go to arbitration.
Is that why they use that number?
No. In other jurisdictions, they ask you to put a value on how much you're seeking. And this Virginia, Windsor, where this applies, must be one of those jurisdictions. I never had the opportunity in a jurisdiction to say, and I'm asking for $50 million. Yeah. But you're right. He was asking for $1 million.
That was just interesting part of the headline.
But what I wanted to say is that in this particular case, I think juries they usually get it right. They don't always get it right. But they usually get it right. Yeah. And I always put faith in, well, how did a jury look at it? Because I'm sitting here 500 miles away. They were in a courtroom. They heard all the witnesses. They heard all the testimony. They only awarded $3,685. Now, they did make an award, including a $1,000 punitive award. So what was going on here? I think it's the jury saying, and frankly, it's the way that I perceived it when I saw the videotape after it first happened. Like, the guy should have gotten out of his vehicle, but the cops were also mistaken, and we see culpability on both sides. So we're going to award him something, but not a lot.
Not a big thing. Yeah.
But not a lot.
Interesting.
The other case is from the Philly burbs, not far from us. I don't know if you saw the footage. In this particular case, community members are voicing concerns about police body cam footage of an arrest that was made on January 8 of a woman. Cops used a taser during a traffic stop. She's African-American, refused to get out of her vehicle after failing to stop for alleged tailgating. The officer's response has renewed criticisms over racial profiling. I know where she was pulled over. It's a Wawa lot, TC. It's a Wawa lot in this direction that you've been to, I've been to. In our old radio station, it would have been a place that I would stop for a soda or a newspaper or whatever the case might be. But similar to the Army lieutenant in that she too did not get out of the vehicle. Police department is saying the cops probably overreacted here, but there's culpability on her part as well. So both of those cases are getting a lot of attention.
A lot of attention.
Bottom line is, whether you're white, black, Indian chief, it doesn't matter. Put your hands on the wheel where they can see it. They have no idea when they approach your car what's going on. Cops need to be reasonable.
Yes.
But if you're instructed by law enforcement to get out of your vehicle, you best do it, because otherwise this is what sometimes unfolds.
Yikes. Yeah, I that's my first instinct, but then I also know that I am not a black woman, and I am not, concerned for my black son, and I'm not, so the sort of the list goes on of walk a mile in someone else's shoes. I just don't know.
Tomorrow, 7:30.
Oh boy.
YouTube Live. It's a Saturday. 7:30 YouTube Live, preceding my CNN program. Looking forward to that. Should have a good mix of different issues to address. You know who's going to be on CNN with me tomorrow? Zeke Emanuel.
Oh, boy. Age what?
Because Dr. Emanuel, now I think 65.
Oh, boy. He's coming into the home stretch.
I think now 65. You will remember when years ago he wrote an essay published in The Atlantic saying, when I get to 75, then I'm going to have a totally different approach to my health care. I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to antibiotics was on his list.
That is amazing to me. I can understand like not having major surgery or not doing big things, but just to take antibiotics if you have the flu or something, not the flu because then you take Tamiflu, but if you have, a strep throat, that would kill it in a second. Why would you do that?
His premise is that yes, people are living longer, but their quality of life at the end of life is bad.
Fine, but antibiotics helps improve your quality of life.
I'm sorry. I now have notes in front of me.
Okay, got it.
No regular preventive tests, screenings, or interventions. Okay, so at age 75, he's not having a colonoscopy. Okay,
good on him.
No cancer screening tests of any kind. No cardiac stress test. No pacemaker. No defibrillator. If his cardiologist says, Zeke, you need a defibrillator, he's not doing it. No heart valve replacement or bypass surgery. No flu shots. He's not going to get a flu shot at age 75.
I think this is crazy.
No life-sustaining interventions. No ventilators. No dialysis. No surgery. No antibiotics or any other medication. Nothing except
if he breaks his leg,
palliative care.
If he breaks his leg, is he going to get it set?
Great question.
You ask him that.
Okay. If I remember,
and break your hip, what's going to happen?
I shall do so.
Fine.
That should be a good conversation
Can't
tomorrow.
wait.
All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for everything. Go vote at Smerconish.com. Subscribe to the newsletter. Go give TC some play with TC After Dark and her Craig Laban interview. And we'll see you.